I know, I know.
We see it and we don't know. Two people instead of one person.
Okay, so what is our plan for next week?
To
not screw up.
To not screw up. Okay.
Every time I try to get a plan out of this, everyone's just like, no, I don't want a comedy plan. I'm trying to. I'm not really sorry.
Because this.
I can tell, yeah. Nothing's happening.
I also work best on the same thing.
I think I work best when making a podcast. Yeah, audio books don't make for enough conversation. Guys, okay, what are we doing? What are we doing?
I don't see.
I think I'm gonna go to
Green ashes. Again. Short people walking. Oh yeah, it's good. And it became one of the most popular books I've ever written.
what?
Sometimes they're selling mushrooms or hiding the
Oh, okay. That's not really. That's not really
short
walking.
people. That's not, they don't.
Ooh, well.
It's all that you got. It's if you have to take it.
For some reason, I'm gonna say this.
Back.
The hobby we're going to is I don't read.
And build those trees.
Files, I'm able to
Yeah,
watch
that's all three of them.
I don't know why. No.
Unfortunately. It's not a yeah, it's not really.
But you can't just.
I
put it
do.
on the sources in the data. So you're gonna have to tell me in your unfortunate document. The relationship. Third.
I was waiting.
I remember.
You have to build that.
I used to use Marlon.
That's it.
Yeah.
I got this.
I.
You got paper. All right. Set up 2 minutes, so you probably want to start packing up.
This is how all development is conversation.
So John, wait.
We're constant contemplation.
Yeah, that's for family for.
Look at this. See, it's Spanish.
I know. As it's Spanish, we. And then remember that I should not be doing anything that is affected by being in any language that the enemy terms really to accept.
That's like every language.
I mean, blind and
Okay, have you got anything done? You have
Are
like.
you gonna build that? Sorry, you guys, you're gonna build.
Close enough to
Sooner
say.
or later, you're gonna be like, oh, this person is not really true.
Basically.
That's your person.
Yeah, so it's 1, 2. No.
Okie dokie, we're at time.
Yeah.
Okay, hi camera, you have to be responsible, so you have to take it.
Do you realize that I am no.
Time.
Huh?
I got 2 in the database, they're filling out the charge document. So they're like, they're ants, because they've pinned the person down, they're excited.
Okay.
Remember, everybody behind you can see what you're doing now.
I know,
Okay,
I'm fine.
you're fine with that. All right, are you sure?
I'm not doing anything about it.
Uh-huh. No, I mean, if you're like giving away information that you don't want to about your lab.
Oh, no, it's not even close.
Okay,
He hasn't been working on something.
such as. All right, so as I was explaining, once you get into the GenPick database, which 3 out of 4 teams have made it in already, 2 are still in it. 1 is on the other side. So Once you've made it into that GenPick database, you're gonna get some hits that are genetically related to your suspect. And you have to build that tree backwards as far as you can and trace their whole trees. Then you have to build it forwards, and somewhere in there, you're gonna find the same person in every tree of every hit you have. So you're gonna know it's the same person because they're related to all of your DNA hits. So once you get there, you're good to go. You're good, Emerson, you're good. See you all next week. What you got? So you gotta find that person in all the trees. If that's the one, it's gotta be in all the trees. All right, I've got some stuff to hand out. So
Your binders here.
oh, Everly, got your binder, babe? So first and foremost, I am handing out your midterm review packet. This means you can start practicing for your midterms now. Between this packet, the slides that will be in your resource folder, they're not quite there yet. I'm working on them all. They're in process. And there is a Jeopardy game that you can access through your resource packet. If you do all three of those things and study and know all that information, you will ace that midterm. You just have to know all that information. So I'm going to hand these out. Make sure that everybody, okay, so this one's Isabella. Pass it back to her, please. Pop her out. There you go. This is Claire, wherever she went. Where'd Grace? She's with Claire. Ridley, Collins with all of them, because they are Emily Lucas. Commander Tyler, friend, right, Caitlin, Barrett, Asher down here. Down here. Eunice is here. Yusuf is with them. Jordan here. Drew. And just clear. Drew. All right, and then I'm gonna hand back some labs and stuff real quick too. Well, everybody's getting situated. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll just catch a little part. So
Yeah. All right, that's Isabella as well. And this is Jordan. Isabella, who's right there. Yeah. Hey, Caitlin. Maybe. Caitlin. Yes. Yusuf's with them. Claire's with them. Dynamo, we're missing you.
what are they even doing?
They're filling out their charging documents, so they want it bad today, so that's what they're doing. Hannah again. Eunice again. Tyler. This is Isabella. Can you please pass it to her? Thank you. Grace again.
There they are.
Yeah, Lucas again. Asher again. And here. They're what?
There you have a pile.
Asher.
Not. No.
Everybody, all a bunch of stuff there. Yeah, I've been handing out. Sander.
There, we have midterms. We kind
I know this one's Caitlin. All right, you guys have a bunch of stuff right here. Claire's got it. Be sure everybody gets their stuff from your team. All right. Okay, so I handed out the things I had to hand out. Secondly, I know the homework was confusing for some people. Some people, about half of you had zero problem. The other half of you was completely lost. So if you had problems with it, but you made an effort, I'm going to give you credit because the directions were confusing and that's on me. If you didn't even make an effort, I'm just excusing it so you don't further confuse yourself. Okay, but let's leave it there and we'll be fine. All right, so we're gonna go ahead and proceed. So Dynamo guys, if you were in that front room, I handed back your labs and stuff and homework assignments, and then I also handed out your midterm review packet. Be sure that you get it before you leave. With the midterm review, if you do the packet, work your way through the packet and study it. If you go on into the resources folder and work on the slides in there, which are not up yet, they will be shortly. And if you go into the resource file and do the Jeopardy, if you do all those things and have that stuff down, like if you know the answers, you're gonna do fine for midterms. We also have review in class, so you'll be good. Are we good? Yes.
So everything on the midterm is gonna be either on the Jeopardy or the.
Pretty much. Pretty much. Now, some of the images may look different. Like there are some graphic images you may have to label and they may look different, but it's the same content. I don't like to, I mean, I will throw thinking questions at you and not tell you what they're going to be because the point is making you think, but I'm not going to throw informational questions at you that I haven't told you are coming. I don't do that. That's craziness. All right, so we are talking today about heredity, human heredity. But remember that heredity implies to anything that produces offspring. So let's talk about human chromosomes. So what do you call an image of arranged chromosomes when you have them in a picture? No, an image of them all in a picture. Eunice.
Stereotype.
A karyotype. Okay, this is a karyotype. Now, looking at this karyotype, can anybody tell me if this karyotype belongs to a male or female? Garrett.
Female.
Belongs to a female? What do you think?
I have a gut feeling.
You have a gut feeling? Xander?
Male.
Why? There's an XY. There you go. Okay, you see the little XY. So you know you're dealing, this one is male. There's an XY. All right. So a typical human has how many chromosomes? How many? Lucas?
46.
46 in how many pairs? Yusuf? No?
23.
23. There you go. 23 pairs making 46 chromosomes. And the number of chromosomes will help identify the organism. Okay, take a look at that. Roundworms are very simple organisms. They have a total of 4 chromosomes. Okay, rice has 24. Humans have 46, but we're a higher organism than a chimpanzee or a dog. But still, we have less chromosomes than that. So it doesn't necessarily mean the more evolved, the more complex, the more chromosomes. Let me ask you a question. Could you breed a mama chimpanzee with a papa dog and get some sort of cool new hybrid animal?
No,
Why not?
don't work like that.
Why?
Because there'd be like a bunch of half chromosomes to get different.
Ah, there you go. Now, you've probably known most of your life that you can't breed a chimpanzee with a dog. That would be fun. Maybe not for whoever is the mama, but you can, but you can't produce some wild hybrid, but you may not know why. It's because you're going to have all these unpaired chromosomes from this dog that don't go with your chimpanzee, right? You're going to have all these chromosomes that don't go. There are some different species that have the same number of chromosomes that are also arranged and sort of dedicated in the right way. Best example is, what's a mule? What's a mule?
Cross between a horse and a donkey.
Yeah, a horse and a donkey. So what do you know about horse and donkey chromosomes? What can you tell?
The same.
They're the same number. Yeah. And then they're going to align closely enough, right? So that'll work. Uh-huh.
So what happens if the chromosomes don't match? I think.
What now?
What happens if why can't you be a dog as well?
Because so how many chromosomes is the mama chimpanzee going to contribute?
48.
Okay, and how many chromosomes is the papa dog gonna? No, 48 is the total.
No.
24 are gonna come from her. How many are gonna come from the papa dog? 39. So 48 and 39, you're gonna, 24. Sorry, 24 and 39, you're gonna have all these chromosomes that are unpaired. That doesn't work because they need that other allele to function, to create the gene, complete the gene, to make whatever proteins are necessary.
They insert chromosomes.
No, not really. I mean, you'd have to know exactly what to put on them all, and what would be the point? Like, why would just to do it, just to say you did it? Okay. So, egg and sperm. What do we call cells that have half your number of chromosomes? There's a word for it. Caitlin?
Sex cell.
They're sex cells. They're gametes. Yep. And we have a certain name for cells that have half the number of chromosomes as the complete organism. So this is haploid. Haploid is half. So it's easy to remember because it sounds like half. Haploid. So these sex cells or gametes, what's the female chromosome going to be?
Double X.
Double X. And the male is
XY.
XY. Okay, so this is why we could look at that karyotype and tell that it was from a male because there was an XY. So that happens because all eggs have which? An X or Y chromosome in them?
X.
All eggs have an X chromosome in them. Why do all eggs have an X chromosome? Why?
Because both boys and females have X.
That's why, yeah. What else?
Because females don't have Y.
There's no Y. Where's it going to come from, right? So basically you have particular cells that are called germ cells in ovaries that are intended to go through meiosis to produce eggs or female gametes. Those cells have the same 46 chromosomes as your skin cells, your liver cells, your lung cells, all the same somatic autosomes that you've got, the same chromosomes, and those all just have 2 X's if you're female. So therefore your germ cells, which have the same chromosomes as all the rest of your cells, can only make X and Y. I mean, X and X, sorry. That's all they can make is X and X, X and X, and X and X. You divide them, you're still just split it in half. One X goes here, one X goes there. You're always going to have X. The males are going to have XY for the exact same reason. They have germ cells in the testes that are going to go ahead and develop into sperm cells or gametes. But each of those starts XY and it's going to divide. One will get the X, one will get the Y. That leaves about half of your sperm as X, half of your sperm as Y, all of your eggs as X, but if a Y is present, it's a male offspring. So you end up with your offspring being about 50-50, which is the aim. So all of your other cells have 46 chromosomes. And what do we call, if haploid are the ones with 23?
Diploid.
Diploid. Very good. Except there are some exceptions. Those guys. What are those guys? What are those guys, do you suppose? Yeah, they're red blood cells. Do you know why red blood cells don't have your 46 chromosomes in them? Anybody know? Do you know, Jordan?
Do they have none?
Yeah, they have no nucleus. So they're not going to have any. Yeah, they're different. They're different. They have no nucleus. And you've got others too that are kind of the same, but those are one of your best examples. So all of human egg cells carry a single X chromosomes. Half of sperm carry an X and half of sperm carry a Y. We just talked about why that is. And that ensures that about half of the zygotes, what's a zygote? What is it? Oh, come on, y'all should know this, Drew. First stage of human development. So people will call it a fertilized egg, but once it isn't fertilized, it's no longer an egg, it's a zygote. So after an egg and sperm have come together, you now have a zygote. So the zygotes, about half are 46XX, meaning they have 46 chromosomes with the last pair being XX, and half will be 46XY, 46 chromosomes, the last pair being XY. Why is it important that it be about half and half? Why do you suppose it matters, Drew?
Well, I mean, makes sense, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, why do you think it makes sense? Like, why? What about it makes sense?
Because we're sexually reproductive creatures.
Okay,
So
yeah.
on ratio, it makes sense.
Ratio,
If like they need they can't produce male or female.
Right. So let's think about it this way. Say you had an isolated population of chipmunks on an island, okay? Like one of those little islands in Lake Lanier that you get off on, and it's like a 700 square foot island. Do you know what I mean? And let's say you have an isolated population of chipmunks there, and it's 10% female and 90% male. what's gonna happen to that population over time? What's gonna happen?
They're gonna be no male.
Well, they're not just no male, what are they not gonna be? Over time, 10% female, it's going to decrease that population size, because if you've only got 10% females and 90% males, it's a lot harder to try and reproduce effectively, right? And every population's goal is to grow to carrying capacity, right? You want your population at your carrying capacity, because that means you're a healthy population. Right now, sometimes you'll find in nature, not with humans necessarily, but in nature, you'll find sometimes there are more female offspring than male offspring, especially in animals where there is a hierarchy and a kind of like deer, for example. Why might that be? Why might you see more females than males? What do you think, Isabella? Males compete, and what are they competing for? For the females. But how many offspring is a female going to have in a season? One, maybe two. How many offspring can a male have within a season?
Unlimited.
Ugh, he can have rutting season to be the best time of his life, right? I mean, he can be out there searching out all that chicks. I mean, that's what they're doing, right? It's not like they're monogamous creatures. A deer is not going to be like, hey, this is my doe and I'm sticking with her forever. We're bucking doe forever. Sometimes some species will do that. Some birds and some others will be monogamous. Others, nope. It is spread my genes in the gene pool, right? So that's especially something that happens in hierarchies like gorillas and deer. And the weaker males are not going to survive. They're not going to survive, and they will not be able to pass on their genetic material. And when we get to our Darwinian unit, which is coming up soon, we'll talk about why that is and why that really matters. So let's talk about some human traits. Human genes are inherited according to the same principles that Mendel discovered. And a pedigree chart, which you guys have now worked with, shows relationships within a family. So here's an example of how pedigrees work. And they tend to be, these are kind of universal pedigree symbols. So you tend to have circles for females, squares for males, and then you can show people who are affected or people who carry. See, the carrier has the little dot right there. Notice that the carrier is under the female column. We'll talk about why that is in a minute, and why you can have affected on both, but you're often going to see it more in males. And we'll talk about that. So this is a good field if you're interested in going into something that is definitely getting more and more advanced, more and more technical. We know more and more, and you can really help people. Genetic counseling is a good way to do it. So say two people, this is usually how it happens. You have a couple that's trying to conceive and they're having a lot of miscarriages. So they want to know why that is. So sometimes they'll send them to genetic counseling because they'll be like, okay, something between his DNA and her DNA genetically is not meshing. What's going on? And sometimes you'll find that there are going to be instances where the offspring that they create is going to have some unsurvivable disorder that is genetic in nature. And it's because their DNA doesn't mesh correctly. You've got, maybe you both have a recessive allele for some terminal disorder that isn't even going to allow an embryo to fully develop. You can also do genetic counseling if you're aware of a family history. A lot of people are not aware that they carry certain genetic disorders, but if you're aware of your family history, this is a great way to go and, with your eventual partner and figure out how this is going to work. What are our risks? Are we going to pass on any genetic disorders? So it's a good thing to look into. So with the human genome, that's our complete set of genetic information, and it's tens of thousands of genes. And some of the very first genes to be identified were those that control blood type. So we have different blood types. Does anybody, who knows their blood type here? I know mine. Anybody know theirs? I know yours. Okay, yours and mine are the same. So basically, we talked about this before a little bit, but it has to do with antibodies and antigens and who can give to who. But these are some of the very first discovered. And then we also learned that there is an Rh factor. It's either Rh positive or Rh negative. So here's what Rh factor is. It's called the rhesus factor. Does anybody know why it's called the rhesus factor? I'm going to tell you in a minute. Not rhesus like Reese's, rhesus. Not peanut butter. I wish it were. Do you know? It was named after something. It's a good guess. Anybody ever heard of a rhesus something? You'll see in a minute. So it's an important characteristic in blood cells, and it indicates whether the blood of two different people is compatible when mixed, such as the blood of a mother and her baby. So if they have different blood group characteristics, it can cause problems. Most people are Rh positive, meaning they have inherited the Rh factor from either their mother or their father. If a fetus does not inherit the Rh factor from either mother or father, he or she is what you call Rh negative. And when a woman is Rh negative and her fetus is Rh positive, they call it Rh incompatibility. Her immune system will attack her fetus because that's the way it works. So if she's ever carrying another Rh positive child, now the antibodies are there, right? They're in her system, and they recognize the proteins on the surface of the baby's blood as foreign. Her antibodies pass into the baby's bloodstream and attack all those cells, and it can make the baby's red blood cells swell up and rupture, and obviously that is not a good thing. This is a rhesus macaque. Ah, have you seen one before? Yes, a rhesus macaque. So it was in 1937, Carl Landsteiner and Alexander Wiener discovered new blood type, the rhesus blood type, or Rh factor. Protein is named for the monkey, which also carries the gene and is a protein that lives on the surface of red blood cells. So we actually walk around with something called Rh factor that is named after this cute little dude right here. Yay, the cute little monkey.
So intelligent.
They're actually, okay, rhesus macaques are interesting. There are some videos I've seen in India. There are some places in India where they're like squirrels. Like they're just there. You know, like you go outside, there's squirrels all over. Like the macaques are just like legitimately everywhere, right? And I'm pretty sure it was the macaque and not a different species. But they have sometimes what'll happen is like they have these trolleys that run with the overhead electric wire, right? And there are videos where like one will get shocked and fall to the ground, like it's been electrically shocked, and the another one will try and revive it. It's like one of the instances where you see an organism in nature not being selfish. Like when we talk about Darwinism, we'll talk about, my goal is to preserve myself and my genetic line. It's not necessarily I don't care about my community. What's the advantage? What's the evolutionary advantage for me to care about somebody else? But they actually do. So you can see them like beating on them and shaking them. It's almost like they're trying to do some kind of monkey CPR that they don't really know exists, but they actually work. It's pretty cool. So you have all your blood type incompatibilities, and this is fascinating. This is distribution by country. So you can see that certain blood types are more prevalent in certain communities, and that makes sense because if people in that country or particular population are interbreeding with one another, you're going to see more of a particular blood type than in others. So you'll see like our rare ones there is that O negative, right? And O negative is one of those ones, if you look right here, like O negative, they can give to everybody. So they want O negative donors and they're hard to find. Oh, they want, yeah, they do inbreed. Yeah, I mean, to a point, yes, populations are going to inbreed to a point. So, yes, so we want O negative, like it's real bad. Like look in Taiwan down there, they've got like no O negatives. See, so they don't even have that population to tap into. So every blood type can receive O negative. So if you are O negative, the Red Cross is going to want to be your friend. Like I have some friends who are O negative that are like on like donation number 85 or something like that. Like they just keep going in and giving blood and giving blood.
Mom did it for years until she had a bad experience. I bruise on my tongue.
Oh yeah, that's not fun. No, nobody wants that for sure. So obviously you're going to see distribution of certain traits within certain populations. This is the same reason that you see people in Sweden with blonde hair and blue eyes, right? Because that population interbreeds and those particular alleles get passed down more frequently. So the same thing with blood type. So now we're going to practice a little note taking. So be sure you have a paper, pencil. I'll pass them out in case you don't have one on you right now. You have to practice note taking. This is important. When you get into college, we're going to make you do it. Pass these around. People need it. So we're about to go through a list of genetic disorders. And what I want you to focus on for the purpose of note taking is the name of the disorder and its associated epidemiology. So by epidemiology, what we're going to be talking about is like who is affected, how common is it, that sort of thing. Is it a particular population? Is it more common in a particular population? So we're going to talk first about some recessive disorders. So these are when you have recessive alleles causing a disorder which would be your phenotype. So many human genes have become known through the study of genetic disorders. In most cases, genetic disorders are usually recessive. They aren't always. We're going to talk about some dominant ones too, but they're usually recessive. So some of these autosomal recessive, so not linked to a sex cell, right? Not on the X or Y, but on any of your other cells. Here are some examples. So we're going to go through these. And these are the ones I want you, we're going to have a slide for each one. And when we get there, write down the name of the disease, write down the epidemiology. So we're going to practice this. All right, so the ones we're going to talk about are albinism, sickle cell disease, cystic fibrosis, and Tay-Sachs disease. So here's albinism. Does anybody know what the word, like we call it, sometimes people call these albinos. Yeah, so if you know somebody with albinism, they may be called an albino. Raise your hand if you know someone with albinism. You do? Okay, good. Couple in here. All right, good.
I know.
Oh, yeah. It's more common in some species than it is in humans. So we have the absence of color in the skin, hair, or eyes. They lack the ability to produce enough melanin. And melanin is obviously going to be your protein that causes your pigment in your skin, your eyes, or whatever. They lack that. So because of that, they lack color. They can have lighter than normal coloring of the skin, hair, or eyes, patches of skin that have an absence of color, strabismus, which is crossed eyes. They can have photophobia or sensitivity to light, and they can have nystagmus or involuntary rapid eye movements. There's two kinds of nystagmus. There's a vertical nystagmus like this, and a horizontal nystagmus like this. This one's, if you have this one, this is usually a term that there's something worse going on than if you have this one, just so you know. But you can have either type of nystagmus. I taught a little girl once who had a terrible horizontal nystagmus. Like she'd look at you and her eye would be like this, and you're like, oh! And I felt real bad for her because I'm like, how is her brain? I don't know how her brain is processing that because her eyes are moving so fast. So they also have problems with impaired vision and blindness. They're not just pale people. They have issues with their vision. The vision is usually the biggest problem with them. And they can have astigmatism, which is also vision related, that has to do with how the lens in your eye focuses light. So here's your epidemiology. It affects all ethnic backgrounds. Anybody from any ethnic background can have albinism. Its frequency worldwide is about 1 in 17,000. So if you're one of the 3-4 people in here who know somebody who's an albino, then you know somebody who is about 1 in 17,000. But its prevalence there are different forms within the population, so that's going to vary depending on what genetic population you're a part of, and it's highest overall in people of sub-Saharan African descent. Now, raise your hands if you know someone with albinism. There were a couple more people who know somebody with albinism besides just me and Yusuf. There was somebody back there. Okay, Barrett. Keep your hand up if that person is of African descent. Aha. Oh. No, yours is not. Yours person is of African descent. So the person I know who is an albino is of African descent. Her skin's almost my color. And her hair, though the texture of someone of African descent is like the color of McKenna's hair. It's like blonde. But her facial features still look like someone of African descent, but she's very, very pale. So it's most common in people of sub-Saharan African descent. 1 in 17,000. We all got our notes? Good. Okay. Now let's talk about sickle cell disease, or sometimes they'll call it sickle cell anemia. So if you look real close at these little red blood cells, do you see the ones that are shaped like little crescent moons or croissants, right? That's a sickle. What's a sickle? What's a sickle, Asher? It's a tool used for harvesting. The Grim Reaper holds a sickle. Yes, you should cut the wheat down. So sickle cell anemia. That's why it's called sickle cell anemia or sickle cell disease. So it causes fatigue and anemia. Why do you think these people are tired? Look at the shape of their red blood cells.
They're not getting enough oxygen.
They're not getting enough oxygen. Okay, those misshapen red blood cells cannot carry oxygen effectively or efficiently to all of the body's tissues. That's the problem with this disease. They can be fatigued. They have what are called pain crises. Their muscles and their bones ache because they're not being oxygenated. And it is excruciatingly painful. They have dactylitis, which is the swelling of their fingers and their toes because their digits are not getting good circulation to them. So again, that's all swelling up. They can get infections. They can get pooling of blood in their spleen or liver congestion. They can have lung and heart injury. They can have leg ulcers. Think about that. That's an appendage that's further from your heart, so it's not getting as much circulation. Bone infarcts. That means parts of their bone die because they're not getting oxygen to them. So pieces of their bone. Imagine having like a chunk of your femur just die. Like that would be extremely painful. Aseptic necrosis. Who can tell me what that is based on the word? Aseptic necrosis. Do we see any roots in there or words in there we know? What do you think, Claire?
Necro.
Necro means
Like that.
death. Okay, she's got that one. That's part of it. Something dies. Dies in a certain way. What's septic mean? What's your septic tank hold if you have one?
You're
All your crap, right? All your waste, right? So do you know what it means to have sepsis? Do you know what it means to be in septic shock? Do you know?
Something related to your tank hole. Issues related.
Kind of.
usually it's like a buildup of urine, so
Could be urine. Basically, do you know?
it's a buildup.
So basically, when you're talking about sepsis, you're talking about a systemic infection. You can have an infection on your finger or in your lungs. That's an infection. Sepsis is your whole body is fighting infection, your entire body. Aseptic would mean what? If it's aseptic, it's not infected, but it's doing what? Necrosis. Yeah, dying. Not infected, but dying. Parts of your body are dying despite the lack of infection because they're not getting oxygen. All right, then we have eye damage. We have all ethnic backgrounds. So this is your focus, epidemiology. This is what I want you to focus on. You can write down the symptoms if you want, but we really want to focus on epidemiology. All ethnic backgrounds. Frequency worldwide is about 112 per 100,000. It's highest overall in people of African descent. And in the United States, African Americans, it's 1 in 500. That is a considerably higher number than your worldwide incidence of 112 per 100,000. Oops, sorry. Does anyone know anyone with sickle cell disease? Is that person African American? No, in your case it's not. In my case it was. I worked with a girl years ago who had sickle cell and she had to call out all the time because of pain crises. It's excruciating and you become non-functional. It's not like you can just get up and go to work. It's that bad. So you ever had, I imagine it kind of like, have you ever had like your leg fall asleep to the point where it's not just tingly, it actually hurts? And you're like, oh, this will be over in just a second, but it's really bad. I imagine it's probably similar to that through your whole body. So that is not something you want. Do we all have our epidemiology written? Got it? Just about got it. Remember, you can use abbreviations as you go. Who is texting me? I do not care. Stop texting me. But it's just vibrating. All right, now I have cystic fibrosis. You've probably heard of this, right? A lot of people have heard of this. So, weird fact, they have salty tasting skin. Interesting, right? They have a persistent cough at times with phlegm. What's phlegm? Mucus that you cough up. Okay, so a lot of these people now what they do is they wear a vest and the vest vibrates vigorously, really hard, and it shakes all of that mucus in their lungs loose so that they can cough it up and breathe better, because otherwise it's filling up their lungs and they can't breathe well. They used to take this little thing, picture a baby bottle nipple, but the nipple part just a little shorter. So it's like a nub, okay? And it was like a rubber thing, and it had a loop where you could put it over your fingers and wear it like a ring, but facing this way instead of the back of your hand. and somebody would sit behind them and just pound on their back. Like 2-3 times a day, they had to do this to break up phlegm in order to breathe because their lungs are so full. Huh?
Just basically burping.
No, not burping, coughing up phlegm. You're not trying to get air out of their digestive system. You're trying to loosen mucus in their lungs. So they have frequent lung infections, including pneumonia and bronchitis. They can have wheezing and shortness of breath, poor growth or weight gain in spite of having a good appetite. Do you know what they call it when a child is not growing correctly? There's a term for it. They call it failure to thrive. Some kids will be designated as failure to thrive. It means they're too small for their age. They should be growing better. There's also another one. I'll let you in on a little pediatric secret that I learned. When I did my internship with the pediatrician's office in college, I learned a term that I've never forgotten because I didn't think it was real. If a child comes in and a pediatrician is looking at this kid and there's something off, and they don't know what, but there's something going wrong, like something's not normal, something's not typical, and they suspect a disorder of some kind, you might hear them use the term FLK. I have an FLK in exam room 2. I'd like a consult. Can you come in and look with me? FLK literally stands for funny looking kid. I'm serious. And they will use that term. They'll say, I have an FLK because they don't want to freak out the parent. So they'll just say, it means a funny looking kid. This kid's funny looking. This isn't normal. Come look. It was so funny because I heard him, the doctor I was with, he kept saying, I have an FLK and I want him to come look. And I said, you have a what? And he said, this is real. Funny looking kid. I'm like, oh, it's real. Okay. He was an interesting guy. He was also the city medical examiner and spent time showing me crime scene photos in between pediatric patients. He was an interesting dude. Yeah. So they can have, actually their bowel movements are not normal either. They're greasy, which probably has to do with the swallowing, coughing up and swallowing mucus and just grossness all the time. The males are infertile. So this is all part of cystic fibrosis. So here's your epidemiology. All ethnic backgrounds. Frequency worldwide is 1 in 3,200. So this is fairly common. And it's highest overall in people of European descent. So white folks, you're going to see it in white folks more than other particular ethnic backgrounds. Second to write that. All right, so, still need it? Need a second more? 1 in 3,200 European. All backgrounds, most common European. All right, so now let's talk about Tay-Sachs. This one is particularly interesting because of the niche community affected by Tay-Sachs. So people with Tay-Sachs are overly startled by, this is neurological. So they're overly startled by noises and movement. They're very slow to reach milestones like learning how to crawl, and then they lose skills that they've already learned. They are floppy and weak, which keeps getting worse until they're paralyzed. So this is a progressive disease. The longer you have it, the longer you live, the worse it gets until you die. It's one of these degenerative diseases. They have difficulty swallowing. They can have a loss of vision or hearing, or both. They have muscle stiffness, even though they're floppy, like their muscles can go from like cramped to hypotonic, where they don't have any muscle tone. They can have seizures, and it's caused by the absence of a particular enzyme that is required for normal bodily function. They lack that enzyme, and then this particular lipid like builds up in your nerve cells and in your brain, and that causes your progressive damage to your nerve cells over time. Epidemiology, most ethnic backgrounds. Its frequency worldwide is 1 in 100,000. Here's the fascinating part. It's a little higher in French Canadians, Cajuns, older Amish, and Pennsylvania, and Irish people, a little bit higher. But it's highest overall in the Ashkenazi Jewish population, where it's 1 in 3,600. From 1 in 100,000 worldwide to 1 in 3,600. What are Ashkenazi Jews? Where are they from? Does anybody know? So Ashkenazi Jews are your Eastern European Jews. So Eastern European Jewish population are Ashkenazi Jews. Why do you suppose you see it in a particular population over others? What do they do? Yeah.
Is it cold?
It's not that it's cold, it's that population is bound both ethnically and religiously. So they are going to breed with one another. They are going to mate and produce offspring with other Ashkenazi Jews. And therefore, you have that gene in the gene pool. It's the same reason you see more sickle cell in African descent and albino in sub-Saharan African descent. Any of these that you see more in a particular group is because that group, that population interbreeds. That's why. So in this case, the Ashkenazi Jews are a much smaller population in a much more isolated part of the world that are held together not just by ethnic background, but religious persuasion. And that makes that more common in that group right there. All right, so now let's talk about some disorders caused by dominant alleles. Those were all recessive alleles. Dominant alleles. So some autosomal dominant, and you're going to have some for these two. Achondroplasia, Huntington's, Marfan, polydactyly. Okay, these are fun ones. These are very interesting ones. And these are dominant alleles. Now remember, just because it's a dominant allele doesn't mean it's more common. It means it covers the expression of the recessive allele, right? So first we'll talk about Huntington's. Does anyone know anyone with Huntington's? I don't happen to know anybody with Huntington's, but Huntington's is another one of these progressive degenerative diseases. So they aren't necessarily born with these problems. They will develop them over time. And as they get older, it gets worse and worse and worse. And it does eventually cause a lot of people's death. So difficulty swallowing, memory lapses, depression, mood swings, irritability, they can be aggressive. Stumbling and clumsiness. Eventually they end up in wheelchairs. Almost all of them do. Involuntary jerking or fidgeting movements of the limbs and the body. Difficulty speaking clearly. Eventually, they may find all communication difficult. They just lose the ability to speak. That's terrible. That's awful. Swallowing problems. Increasingly slow and rigid movements. Breathing problems. Difficulty moving around, and they eventually can lose the ability to walk or sit up by themselves. Terrible disease. All ethnic backgrounds.
There's this channel that I watch called Special Books by Special Kids, but I
Uh-huh.
don't know why it's called that because it's nothing about books. And this guy interviews people with different diseases and special needs.
Uh-huh.
I saw one kid who had Huntington's disease.
Yeah. Huntington's is one of the first ones that when they looked at this is one of the ones where I saw years ago they were trying THC, which is marijuana derived chemical, and it was reducing some of their shaking and seizures and rigid movements and all of that. So it was one of the first things they looked at when it came to like what actual pharmaceuticals can we derive from cannabis. And then its frequency is pretty uncommon. It's 2.7 per 100,000, but it's still so devastating that it gets, it gets some funding, it gets some attention because it's really, really devastating. There are plenty of completely rare disorders that you'll never hear about and they get like no funding and those people are just kind of left on an island on their own to figure it out.
Like the one we watched the movie about.
Yeah, okay, So highest overall in people of Egyptian descent. That's very specific. Egypt is not that big of a place. I mean, it's a good country, it's a good sized country, but it's not, pretty sure Texas is a whole lot bigger. You know what I mean? And so there they are, Egyptians. Again, you have a pool, a community, interbreeding, and you get a higher frequency within that area. So somebody somewhere developed the mutation that created the gene that wasn't normal and then passed it around within that gene pool again and again. All right, now Marfan's. Marfan's is interesting, really interesting. So Marfan's, they tend to be very tall and slender. Look at how tall this dude is and how skinny this dude is.
Well, a victim. Oh, well, like his stomach is a little.
Yeah, so they have disproportionately long arms, legs, and fingers. Look at how long his fingers are. Look at where his legs hit. Like my hands, they hit, right about a hand's length below my hip. His are almost to his knees. And look how long his legs are. Their breastbone or their sternum can either poke out or cave in. In this case, his is kind of poking out. Yours goes in a little, but it's kind of level with your rib cage. Theirs can be like really caved in or it can really stick out. And they have a high arched palate the top of your mouth that you can touch with your tongue, the hard part of your mouth, theirs is very high, and that causes all their teeth to be crowded. And they can have heart murmurs too. And extreme nearsightedness. Now, there is a famous historical figure that a lot of people have postulated may have had Marfan syndrome. Does anybody know who? Do you know?
Freddie Mercury.
No, that's a great guess. I like that guess. Yeah, okay. Do you know Abraham Lincoln? Oddly enough, a lot of people have suggested it. Now, experts don't agree necessarily because he wasn't known to have heart problems and he wasn't known to have some of these other things, but he was disproportionately tall. He had very long arms, very long legs, very long fingers, and a hat, which made him look even taller. So, yeah, so a lot of people have suspected that he may have had Marfan syndrome. We don't know for sure, but yeah.
George Washington was suspected to have autism.
Maybe, I don't know. He was extraordinarily tall for his time. There was that.
He also was a redhead. He also a redhead.
Yes, he was a redhead. We always see the white robe, white wig, but he was a redhead. So they also have an abnormally curved spine. That's not good. Scoliosis can impact how your organs function, so it's no good.
Do you have any pictures of people on Mark Syndrome's back?
You can look them up. They're all over the internet. It's very easy to find. And flat feet. That's not good either. That's uncomfortable. So it affects all ethnic backgrounds. It's about 2.5 per 10,000. And, oops, sorry. Does anybody know anybody with Marfan's? I'm not aware of knowing anybody with Marfan's. Do you? You do? Yeah. Okay. So he knows all kinds of disease. Who?
Not him. This is.
Oh, yeah?
This is basketball player.
Yeah, there are some basketball players. Yeah, there are some really tall basketball players. That's possible. Yeah, there are people that have this. Now, a heart murmur, just so you know, is like if you listen to someone's heart, it doesn't have the standard lub dub. It can have a slightly different sound or like an extra kind of a little whoosh or whatever. And heart murmurs are usually caused by how your valves function. Some of them are completely benign. They cause no problem. I have two. I have a mitral and tricuspid valve prolapse where I wash a little blood back into each of those little chambers that it's not supposed to be in. That can happen in my case, and it can happen to any of you too. If you get a strep infection that goes untreated or that reoccurs quickly, which is what happened to me, you can develop a heart murmur from it. So heart murmurs are actually really common. A lot of people have heart murmurs. So that's not uncommon, and like sometimes if it's bad, they'll make you take antibiotics before you go to the dentist because that can release certain bacteria into your bloodstream that can make it worse. But it's interesting. So now we have polydactyly. Everybody knows what this is, right? You can tell by the picture what this is. Does anybody know anyone with polydactyly? Yeah? Claire, what about?
My grandpa's dog and my confirmation sponsor, so.
Okay, how about you? Did you know somebody with it?
I had a few friends from my old homeschool classes
Mhm.
that I went to.
Were they related to each other? No. So do you know somebody?
I've seen people on the internet like that.
Yeah. Okay, so this is extra digits. So my cousin's baby was polydactylic. He was born with an extra finger on each hand and an extra toe on each foot. They didn't have bones. So they took some sterile thread and tied them off at the base, and they just fell off within a few weeks. They just cut off the blood flow and they just died and fell off. She called them his monster fingers and monster toes because he had 6 fingers on each foot, 6 toes on each foot, 6 fingers on each hand. And it was funny because nobody in our family had it that we're aware of, and nobody in her husband's family had it that we're aware of. But there it was.
It's very creepy.
Yeah. So there's 3 types. They got preaxial, which is radial. Okay, if you hold up your arm and you turn your hand, okay, one of your bones doesn't move, the other rotates around the axis of your hand. The rotating one is your radius. The one that doesn't move is your ulna. So your radius is this guy on the inside. Your ulna's over here. The radial type, you get extra fingers over here by your thumb. Then you can have central, pop them in the middle somewhere extra. And then you can have ulnar, which means over here by your pinky. You're going to have an extra digit. My cousin's baby was ulnar or postaxial on his feet. So same thing on the outside there. It's all ethnic backgrounds. Here's your epidemiology. Its frequency worldwide is about 1 in 1,000. So it's pretty common. A lot of people that have this gene for this genetic situation for polydactyly, you won't know because it'll be like my cousin's kid where his little fingers were tied off as a baby and you can't see it. So because you can't see it, you don't even know that he has it necessarily. Some people have full bones, full tendons, full ligaments, like it's completely structured, and other people just have like a little hollow thing. Yeah.
The six-fingered man from Princess Bride.
Oh, again? Yeah. Okay. Yeah. There you go. Yeah. Totally. Hello. Sorry. Absolutely. Yes. Okay. You're six-fingered man. Yep. And it's highest overall in people of African descent at about 1 at 150. My cousin's baby is not of African descent, but 1 at 150. So that's pretty darn common, right? 1 out of 150. All right, so now we'll look at achondroplasia. What's the more common term for achondroplasia? Do we know?
Syndrome?
Not Down syndrome, dwarfism.
Dwarfism.
Dwarfism, right? We don't say midget. It's not nice. We don't say that anymore, right? But people used to say that. We don't say that anymore. We say dwarfism. So there are a gazillion different symptoms because there are various types of achondroplasia. In general, they can have a large size head with a large forehead. They can have a flattened bridge of their nose, crooked or crowded teeth, short arms and legs and fingers, but a normal sized torso. You've probably seen some people with that. Upper arms and thighs are more shortened, bowed lower legs, curved lower spine, or lordosis or swayback is what they call that, which can lead to a hunchback or kyphosis when you kind of got this going on, right? They have some of them can have a small hump near their shoulders that goes away when they start walking. Their flat feet are short and broad. They have extra space between their middle and ring fingers, or what they call a trident hand. So between your middle and your ring finger, kind of like that. They have a little extra space in there. So they call it, see why it would be a trident hand, right? Mm-hmm. Uh-huh. Yeah, 3. Yep. Poor muscle tone, loose joints, short spells of slow or stopped breathing, which are called apnea. Those occur most frequently in sleep, right? Middle ear infections that occur often and can lead to hearing loss. Why do babies have ear infections more frequently than adults? Does anybody know why? So your eustachian tubes, which connect your ears kind of to your throat, as a baby, they're kind of like this. They're kind of horizontal with the ground. So when you get fluid buildup in there, it doesn't go anywhere. As you age and grow, they tilt down, which helps that fluid drain from your middle ear to your throat. It just drains out. But babies keep this kind of structure, and some of people with achondroplasia as well keep this sort of structure, and that just makes it harder for them to not get ear infections because it doesn't drain naturally on its own. And they can have delayed development milestones, such as walking, which is closer to 18 to 24 months instead of 12 months. And small canals in their spinal bones that cause breathing problems. And there are 2 main categories, proportionate and disproportionate, with over 14 types. So like I said, tons of different types of this disorder. It gets very, very specific. You've probably seen the proportionate versus disproportionate. Proportionate, they just look like a very small version of an adult person, just very small. And then the disproportionate are the ones you probably see more frequently, where like their torso and head are normal sized, but their legs and arms are shorter, right? There was a guy, I used to pass him, he had achondroplasia, and I used to pass him on the street when I would come home because he was walking to work. He worked at the Fresh Mart. And this dude would buy, like, this was in the early 2000s. So he would buy like the FUBU warm-up suits and like all the really cool like running gear and stuff. And you could tell he had gone to the store and bought them and had them all tailored for him. Because he was wearing like a $200 warm-up suit, strutting down the road in his $200 warm-up suit that he had tailored with the legs short and the arms short. And I was like, that guy spent so much money on his, because think about it, like we're gonna shop in the children's section. He's a full-grown man. So I mean, he had to buy clothes that fit him or have them made, which is what he did. So epidemiology, all ethnic backgrounds. We've probably seen people with dwarfism in all different ethnic backgrounds. And its frequency is 1 in 25,000. Anybody know anyone with achondroplasia? Personally? You do? I do. Yep. Yep, you do. Yep.
Every single time.
Remember, I
You what?
I remember I shortened.
Short memory. All right, so now I'm going to give you a minute to try and think this out. You just wrote down your worldwide frequency for each of these. Where are my math people?
Not here.
Because what you've got here are different. It'll say like 1 in 25,000, 140 and 100,000. I give you a minute and see if you can figure out how to equalize all those fractions, especially for my math people who love this. Hold on. Equalize all those fractions in such a way that you can tell me, rank them by frequency, because now your denominator's the same. Yes, you can use technology. You can ask Copilot or ChatGPT to help you, because that's what normal people are going to be doing for the rest of your life. So I'll give you a minute, see if you can figure out how to rank them from most highest frequency to lowest frequency. I used 100,000 as my denominator. That's what I did, but you don't have to do it that way.
Probably Dawsontonia cat down.
Polydactyly, that's your most common. That's what you got. All right, let's see what we got. Some of you have got it. Some of you are part of the way there. All right, so per 100,000, those are my numbers per 100,000. Sickle cell anemia at 112 per 100,000. Then I got polydactyly at 100 per 100,000. Cystic fibrosis at 32.5 per 100,000. Marfan's at 25 per 100,000. Albinism at 5.882, so almost 6 per 100,000. Achondroplasia, 4 per 100,000. Huntington's, 2.7 per 100,000. And Tay-Sachs at 1 per 100,000, if you're going by worldwide rate, not within a community, specific community. So you're far more likely to know someone with sickle cell disease or sickle cell anemia than you are Tay-Sachs, obviously. Like 112 times more likely. But yeah, so that's how those work out. Now let's talk about chromosomes a bit. So here's a karyotype. Is this karyotype from a male or a female?
Male.
How do you know?
XY.
You got an XY right there. Everybody see the little XY? Okay, so we know this is a male's karyotype. Chromosomes 21 and 22 are your smallest autosomes. Do we see 21 and 22?
Yes.
22, 21. Look at how little they are. Despite that, 22 contains 43 million DNA base pairs. It's that small, 43 million, and 21, 32 million base pairs. Now, we have sex-linked genes. All right, here's where the ladies come out on top. It's just the way it is. So I will describe this the way my college professor described it, and you'll giggle and then you'll forget the joke. But that Y chromosome is weak. It is weak. And it is. We're being honest, it is. It's very small. Do you see it? See how big the X is compared to the Y? Now, if you pop that X next to that Y, put the little centromere in, there are going to be genes on that X that are not on the Y. You see that? See all that space? Look at all that. Not there. Not there. So if you've got something on the X chromosome that causes a problem, and then you have nothing on the Y chromosome to cover it up, you're going to have the problem, right? So this is why most sex-linked characteristics, genetic characteristics that cause diseases are expressed in men, not in women. Ladies, we won something. There you go. So this is just the way it goes. So more than 100 sex-linked genetic disorders are found on that X chromosome. Now, if a woman has them, most of the time she's going to be a carrier. Not always, but
Did we win something? Because that's just putting more blame on it.
Well, no, the blame is right here because he's weak and missing parts. She's big and strong. He's like, just hanging in there. It's just kind of waiting. I'm doing my best. And males have just one X chromosome, so all your X-linked alleles that are expressed in males, even if they're recessive. So if you've got a recessive one or one that causes a problem, it's going to be expressed in males. So some of your sex-linked disorders are going to be color blindness. Obviously going to be more common in men. Hemophilia, which came up in your lab, didn't it? Didn't hemophilia come up in your lab? Who had hemophilia? Alexi had hemophilia, right? So if you've got a we talked about how some of these genetic things in populations are more frequent. Okay, European monarchies interbred like mad, right? They were marrying their cousins and they were having problems with that, right? And when you interbreed like that, you cause certain things to become more and more frequent, right? So hemophilia, muscular dystrophy, this particular type, Duchenne muscular dystrophy, Fragile X, we'll talk more about all these. So color blindness. All right, here is the part. It's most common disorder in red-green, right? And it affects 1 in 12 males. How many boys are in this room? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, here's the part where nearly every time I teach this class, someone learns something about him or herself, usually himself. All right. Is anybody in here who cannot see the numbers?
Which one?
All of them have a number. You can't see the numbers?
I can see.
You can see the numbers. If you can't see the numbers, you're colorblind. Hi. There's usually somebody who goes, wait, what? There's numbers? No, there's not. What number is in the first one? Then?
36, 9, 48.
Is there anybody who can't see them?
Can't see the fourth.
Can't see the fourth one. This one here? Yeah.
Get far closer to it, I'd be able to.
Okay, yeah. So there are certain levels of color blindness.
Oh, no bomb diffusing for me.
I was going to say, if you're colorblind, you're not going to diffuse bombs. You're not going to be an electrician. You're also not going to be a U.S. Marshal, which a friend of mine learned out the hard way. Like he spent his whole life wanting to be a U.S. Marshal. Was a police officer. Like did all the stuff. And he got all the way to the U.S. Marshals like entrance exam and testing, and they were like, "Sorry, dude, you're colorblind." It's like, what the hell? Like this was my life goal, and then he didn't find out till he was like 32 that he was colorblind. Yeah, so a lot of people go through life not even knowing it. But yes, that's a good test. So that now this one's kind of the other end of the spectrum here. There are some women that have a very rare form of color vision called tetrachromacy. We have 3 cones. You have rods and cones in your eyes. Most humans have 3 types of cones. There's the red, the green, the blue cone, right? If you have an extra type of cone, you have 4 types of cones in your eyes. It's rare, but you can be a tetrachromat. So it's only women that get it, and it can be 100 million shades of colors. So the question is, how many shades do you see? So take a minute, kind of try and count. I know it's hard. You can also go online. There's a ton of these Am I a Tetrachromat tests. Claire's got the pencil up. Yep. See how many do you think you can see? Is it at least 6 or 7?
7.
Oh, I lose count once I get to like 5.
Yeah, it's easy to lose count. And some of it's hard because it's on a computer screen, so your eyes kind of play tricks on you and you see ones that aren't there.
I see 41.
You see 41.
Everything.
So I encourage you to do this at home on your screen where you're not trying to look from far because you probably get a more accurate answer. So hands up if you see more than 5. Keep them up if it's more than 10, more than 20, more than 30. Some hands should go down around there. Some of you think you see more than 40. So that's an eye playing the trick with the camera. So if you see between 33 and 39, you might be a tetrachromat. But if you're seeing less than that, you probably got normal vision. So
I got like halfway.
definitely worth like trying on your own at home. It's always kind of fun. Yeah.
Men be tetrachromat.
No.
You're not.
You like the way I answered that? No. Nah.
Maybe some.
Ain't gonna happen. Sorry. So, some other sex-linked genes. Hemophilia. So this is what we talked about. Royal families. What happens in hemophilia? You lack a clotting factor. What is it? What happens?
Your blood can't clot.
Your blood doesn't clot, so you just
Bleed.
bleed and bleed and bleed. Exsanguination is apparently one of the worst ways to die. Literally the most painful, one of the most uncomfortable ways to die is to bleed out exsanguination. Nobody wants hemophilia. Yeah.
We know that.
I've never experienced it, but there are some people who have nearly bled out and they can tell you it's pretty rough. If you've ever had any kind of extreme blood loss, like I had some after my first childbirth, it is not a good feeling. It is a really disorienting, really terrible feeling to bleed out a lot. It's not, hemorrhage of any kind is not fun. So hemophilia. So your 2 important genes carried on the X chromosome help blood to clot, but in hemophilia, a protein necessary for normal blood clotting is missing. And about 1 in 10,000 males are born with hemophilia, but look how common it was with these royal people trying to keep their royal blood because they're so special because God put them in that seat on that throne. I'm special, God chose me, so I'm going to breed with my cousin because God chose him too. Yep, that's what we did. That's what they did. Like,
Whoever chose these diseases to go with men is so sexist. Like,
evolution, there you can blame that. So you'll notice that the females that are carriers are noted like a little red donut, right? So the circle with the dot, that means they have the gene, but they're not affected because they also have another X chromosome that covers up the expression of the hemophilia. So they don't have that problem, but all these poor dudes, look at all these dudes. 1 in 10,000, look at his family. Like, that's not good. That's not good. Yep.
they're good.
Yep. All right, so Duchenne muscular dystrophy. So this is one that results in progressive weakening and loss of skeletal muscles. It's about a 1 in 3,000 males in the US born with this. So this is one where you start as a fairly typical baby, and then over time you get weaker and weaker and sicker and sicker. And skeletal muscle. So your heart is cardiac muscle. The muscle around your digestive system and whatnot is smooth muscle, but your skeletal muscle is pretty much anything you can control and move. So you can imagine that has issues, but also when your skeletal muscles get weak, your joints get weak, your spine gets weak, all of your internal organs that are functioning on different types of muscle can't do their job properly anymore because they're lacking the scaffolding around them that gives them the space they need to function. So it causes all manner of issues. And this can be pretty brutal. Like you've probably seen like the March of Dimes and stuff. They do, birth defects. They focus on muscular dystrophy and things like that in the past. So there used to be called Jerry's Kids. It was a celebrity who did a whole thing every year for muscular dystrophy, telethon on TV where you'd call in and talk. No, not Jerry Springer. But you'd call in, you'd talk to a person and you'd give them money so they could do research for this. But over time, their bones end up brittle and weak. It's the movement of your muscles on your bones that help. Well, it's one of the things that help your bones stay strong. Like you watch athletes and you fall and you're like, why did their leg not snap? Because their bones are extra strong because they're constantly under, tension and whatnot from it. It builds strength. So when you lose the muscle strength, you lose the bone strength and they lose the ability to walk and all of that. So Fragile X is very interesting. Actually know someone who carries Fragile X. So it causes intellectual disabilities, behavior problems, learning problems. It's only expressed in males, obviously. They tend to have long, narrow faces, long ears, a very prominent jaw is usually one of the signs. And then unusually flexible fingers, flat feet, and large testicles. All kinds of things go with this. It's not fun. My friend that was a carrier for this chose not to have biological children because any male offspring had a 50% chance of having Fragile X. And she did not want to pass that on. She had uncles with it, family members with it. She did not want to pass it on. She and her husband actually did egg donation. So that was how they went about it. And then that failed like 3 times, and then they adopted 2 kids. So anyway, but they went through that process because she did not want to pass her genes, because this is 50% chance of any male offspring being born with Fragile X, which is not good. I mean, not as bad as some of the others, obviously, but not good. Now, sometimes you have activation and inactivation of your X chromosome because they both have, they can turn on and off. So anybody seen a tortoiseshell cat? You've probably seen them before, right? These are my favorite kind of cats. If you see one of these cats running around, you can tell before you get up close, it's a girl kitty, because male kitties do not express this pattern typically. And that's because you've got this X chromosome, one allele for orange, one allele for black, and they turn on and off at different times during embryological development. So while the little kitty is developing as a little cat fetus, while it's developing, it's going to have, well, embryo even, it's going to have points in its development of its integumentary system where the orange gene is turned on and points where the black gene is turned on. And that will be expressed in its coat being a patchwork pattern. Now, alopecia is what? Does anybody know what alopecia is? Do you know?
Hair loss.
Yeah, baldness, right? Hair loss. Very good. Men will go straight bald, right? And that gene's on your X chromosome. So, gentlemen, look at your maternal grandfather. This is your future.
Oh, that.
Sorry. But this is your future, right? Your maternal grandfather is going to determine whether or not you are likely to be bald as an adult, older adult male.
What is all kinds of bald?
Now, interestingly, women don't bald like that. But what women get is pattern baldness. And the reason women get pattern baldness is the same reason you get tortoiseshell cats. That little X clicks on and off. So you get a patch here that has no hair, hair, but hair everywhere else, the same reason, exact same process. So you get activation of X chromosome and inactivation, clicks on and off, clicks on and off. So you've got 2 X chromosomes, males only have 1. So if you've got that alopecia gene, sorry, you got it from your mother. She got it from look at her daddy. That's a good chance of where you're going. And in females, you've got that 1 X chromosome and it will randomly switch on and off. Now, the most common error in meiosis occurs when homologous chromosomes fail to separate, and it's known as non-disjunction. If non-disjunction occurs, abnormal numbers of chromosomes may find their way into your gametes, into your sperm and egg, and a disorder of a chromosome numbers may vary. So if 2 copies of an autosome chromosome fail to separate during meiosis, an individual may be born with 3 copies of a chromosome, and it's known as a trisomy. Does anybody know what our most common trisomy is? I guarantee you know somebody with it. Yes, 21. Trisomy 21, there it is right there, is Down syndrome. Who knows someone with Down syndrome? Who knows more than one person with Down syndrome? Yeah, very common, right? Very, very common, you'll see. So it's a trisomy, and that's 21. There's also 18. Trisomy 18 causes improper development of the brain. They're missing parts of the brain, or it's either agenesis, like it doesn't form, or it's too small and it doesn't function. Most of them only live a few weeks. There are a few people who have, lived several years, but it is not often survivable. So chromosomal disorders, your most common is trisomy 21, Down syndrome, having an extra chromosome on pair 21. And it's characterized by, now, if you know somebody with Down syndrome, you probably know they have intellectual problems. Like that's your number one thing. They have intellectual problems. They have other health problems that a lot of people aren't aware of that actually are dangerous. And they do have to be careful.
Mostly they're short, right?
They're short. Yes, they're very short.
They're really flexible too.
They're very flexible. Yeah. They also tend to be, in my experience, the happiest people you'll ever meet on the planet. The most happy because it's that intellectual thing. Up syndrome because I mean their mood is up for sure, it absolutely is. So a lot of symptoms. So obviously your delayed development, learning disability, short, as we mentioned, in stature, speech delay in a child. The one I know right now that is still a child is 2 years old. He still doesn't speak yet. It's going to be a while before he speaks. Lazy eye, or they can have like kind of spots, they don't see well. They can have difficulty thinking and understanding, which I think we all understand. Their little finger, if you ever noticed, tends to be bent. It's a bent little finger. They have congenital heart disease. A lot of them have to have surgeries when they're very small to work on heart problems that they have. They can have very specific anatomical problems with their heart that can be corrected surgically. They have displacement of the tongue. This is often why they speak and they sound different. Sometimes they can be a little hard to understand. Their tongue is not positioned the same way yours is. It's actually kind of big for their mouth too, which makes it difficult for them to form sound. You can see in that picture how big his tongue is compared to his mouth. So they have to kind of work around that when they're making sounds. Excess skin on the back of their neck. That's actually one of the first things when they are doing ultrasounds. They can see thickening at the back of the neck and they can suspect that a baby might be born with Downs based on that. That's one of those things that they note when they're doing ultrasound scans on pregnant women. Flaccid muscles, they're just kind of, some of them are just kind of floppy, right? Hearing loss, immune deficiency. They get sick easily. Their immune system isn't great. Their ears tend to be lower set. Lower set ears are common with genetic problems. If you notice that, they can be very common. Obesity, they gain weight easy, and they most of them are not very thin. They're kind of on the chubbier side. And they can have obstructive sleep apnea where they stop breathing when they're sleeping. That has a lot to do with their tongue and just kind of the way their body is shaped and functions. And then they can have seborrheic dermatitis, which is when you get like almost like cysts kind of everywhere, and it's oily and you get your pores get open and they ooze. So that's something. But, oh, and this is interesting too. Look at your palm. You've probably got 4 or 5, maybe 4-ish lines on your palm. They have a single line on their palm, which is kind of cool. One line. And thickening of the skin at the palms and the soles of their feet. Thyroid disease, vision disorder. 1 in 700 live births is trisomy 21. 1 in 700. So chances are you absolutely know somebody with this, right? Or you have known or will know or whatever. Pretty common. So disorders also occur among sex chromosomes. Disorders also occur, okay, 2 of these most common ones are Turner syndrome and Klinefelter. So Turner syndrome, there's only 1 X chromosome. The female is sterile and their sex organs do not develop at puberty. And its frequency is about 1 in every 2,500. So 1 in 2,500 is Klinefelter syndrome. I'm sorry, Turner syndrome. Klinefelter syndrome is in males, and it's when you have an extra or multiple extra X's, but the presence of the Y makes the offspring male despite all of the X's. And it's about 1 in 750. A lot of people that have this will never know they have this, because as long as you have that Y functioning, and you say you've got XXY, it may not produce anything obvious that you're even aware of.
What was the name of the disorder again?
This is Klinefelter.
That intersex?
No, intersex is different. So intersex tends to be, so if you look in this case, everybody has their reproductive organs, right? They may not function, but they have them. And intersex is like when externally you've got either what they'll call ambiguous genitalia, or maybe aspects of both male and female genitalia. Like my best friend has a good friend whose baby was born intersex, and they had to wait on the karyotype to determine whether the baby was male or female. Baby is male, but he was born, he had to have some reconstruction because things were not quite where they were. Like I changed his diaper even. I was like, I don't know what that is. Like it was very ambiguous. It was very, very ambiguous. And it happens sometimes, it's just very ambiguous. But these guys, like, the girls with Turner syndrome are born with all of their genitalia, typical female genitalia, but they're sterile and things don't function properly. You can see they're very short. You know, and then in the males with Klinefelter syndrome, some of them can have some more feminine physical attributes, but they still have that Y chromosome, so they're still male. And like I said, you could have XXY, never know it. Go through your whole life and never know it. And it doesn't that doesn't attribute to sexuality or anything like that. It's you know. So there's all those, and there have been no reported cases of a baby being born without an X chromosome. So that tells us that there's something on the X chromosome that is necessary for survival, because nobody's born without an X. You can have extra X's or one X, but nobody without it. Mhm.
Have there been babies that haven't been born without an X chromosome?
I mean, I don't think we know. I believe that would probably be the kind of thing where developmentally the miscarriage would be so early that people wouldn't be able to tell or wouldn't think to look into it. Like, there's miscarriages are fairly common, so I mean they happen enough that, I mean, if it happened to you like again and again and again and again and again, you'd be at a genetic counselor. But I think the chances of it happening to you more than once for that reason are really slim, you know. So molecular genetics in 1990, that's what our human genome looked like. Then it kept moving, and now we have our human genome that's sort of graphically displayed like this, because now we know so much more. And you guys watched the little video on the Human Genome Project, so you understand how absolutely heavily involved and detailed it has become. We've done DNA fingerprinting before in lab. We did that, right? So you can use this to identify individuals. I saw a great meme. It was like a short video, like a reel, and it was like DNA fragments during electrophoresis. And I think it was a video game, but people's bodies were like blowing across a field, and they were like spinning around, like they're just blowing. And I was like, that's great. That's exactly. So in gene therapy, this is something we can do. An absent or faulty gene can be replaced by a normal working gene. So we can do gene therapy for certain conditions. It's still not like the most effective or affordable thing, but it is something we're developing and we're working on and we're getting there. So, go over there. It would be great to cure genetic disorders, but if human cells can be manipulated to cure disease, should biologists try to engineer things like taller people or change their eye color or whatever, right? Like, this is where we get into the sticky. This is sticky stuff. Is this
what happens when you get surgery to be taller? I don't want to go break your legs.
Yes,
Yeah.
they do.
Have you ever heard of the
Every cell in our body contains a copy of our
Yeah.
gene,
Collapse.
20,000 genes, 3 billion letters of DNA. DNA consists of 2 strands twisted into a double helix and held together by a simple pairing rule. A pairs with T and G pairs with C. Our genes shape who we are as individuals and as a species. Genes also have profound effects on health, and thanks to advances in DNA sequencing, researchers have identified thousands of genes that affect our risk of disease. To understand how genes work, researchers need ways to control them. Changing genes in living cells is not easy, but recently a new method has been developed that promises to dramatically improve our ability to edit the DNA of any species, including humans. The CRISPR method is based on a natural system used by bacteria to protect themselves from infection by viruses. When the bacterium detects the presence of virus DNA, it produces 2 types of short RNA, one of which contains a sequence that matches that of the invading virus. These 2 RNAs form a complex with a protein called Cas9. Cas9 is a nuclease, a type of enzyme that can cut DNA. When the matching sequence, known as a guide RNA, finds its target within the viral genome, the Cas9 cuts the target DNA, disabling the virus. Over the past few years, researchers studying this system realized that it could be engineered to cut not just viral DNA, but any DNA sequence at a precisely chosen location by changing the guide RNA to match the target. And this can be done not just in a test tube, but also within the nucleus of a living cell. Once inside the nucleus, the resulting complex will lock onto a short sequence known as the PAM. The Cas9 will unzip the DNA and match it to its target RNA. If the match is complete, the Cas9 will use 2 tiny molecular scissors to cut the DNA. When this happens, the cell tries to repair the cut, but the repair process is error-prone, leading to mutations that can disable the gene, allowing researchers to understand its function. These mutations are random, but sometimes researchers need to be more precise, for example, by replacing a mutant gene with a healthy copy. This can be done by adding another piece of DNA that carries the desired sequence. Once the CRISPR system has made a cut, this DNA template can pair up with the cut ends, recombining and replacing the original sequence with the new version. All this can be done in cultured cells, including stem cells that can give rise to many different cell types. It can also be done in a fertilized egg, allowing the creation of transgenic animals with targeted mutations. And unlike previous methods, CRISPR can be used to target many genes at once, a big advantage for studying complex human diseases that are caused not by a single mutation, but by many genes acting together. These methods are being improved rapidly and will have many applications in basic research, in drug development, in agriculture, and perhaps eventually for treating human patients with genetic disease.
So that's CRISPR technology, which is actually really, really cool. So of all the genetic disorders we discussed today, which was the most common here? Down syndrome was our most common, with 1 in 700, which equals 142.9 per 100,000 live births. So if you look back at your list, that was our most common. So I will pop your answers up here so that you can compare real quick. And then I'll switch to the next set. Make sure that you have a chance. Yes, sir.
So,
You're gonna have to, if you think you know, and you've got your trees, I can give you your next phase of routine. But it's a physical thing, so I'm probably gonna have to give it to you next week.
physical.
Yeah, like I have to hand it to you. So you'll have to work together on it.
Oh.
And you probably don't have time to work on it today. Yeah. But be sure that you've gotten those trees like very clearly laid out so that you know. All right, and here's these. Sure you look through those.
Is there like a form they got? So,
Hmm?
is there like a form, specific form?
There's a form after that, but you have to do your interview with your suspect next. So that takes about 10 minutes, which you all won't have today. And these, of course, you can review these by looking at your slides and your resources. I want to make sure they're there. It's giving me problems. I know. And then this was the homework. And I have gone ahead and I went ahead and put these in. Like I put them in for you. I gave you the correct answer if you got it wrong. But if you made an effort, yeah, I know. If you made an effort, you're good. Yes.
There's only 5 questions.
They were 6.
There are 6. There's I had some extras there from the last time I did it. Yeah. Uh-huh.
This one, I had skipped out and it showed me all of them.
Okay. It's all right. No worries.
So then I
If-
can go back and do anything.
If you made an effort, you're good. All right. So we're good for this week. I'll see everybody next week. If you're ready to go.